quite late, but I hope you will stay focused and just bear with me a little bit more so that I can introduce you this procedure of WOAH on the official recognition of CBPP free status and endorsement by WOAH of official control programs for CBPP. And to balance out, as Karim presented in French, my presentation will be in English. So just to give you a brief outline of this presentation, I'll give you a brief history about this procedure on official recognition of animal health status and endorsement of control programs, which applies to other diseases as well. And then I'll explain to you in more detail about the standard operating procedures, how this procedure of recognition is done. And then to touch a little bit more in detail, the requirements of the code, kind of in continuation from what Karim has presented to you, and end by showing you the list of countries and zones having a free status and endorsement from WOAH. So to start with a very brief history, this official recognition of animal health status procedure was a request from the WOAH members to WOAH to perform this work of giving official recognition of disease-free status on certain diseases with trade importance. And this procedure first came about for FMD. So after the request in 1994, the following year, the procedure was developed and adopted by the membership. And the following year in 1996, following this procedure, WOAH published the first list of members and zones free from FMD without vaccination. So since then, after 1996, additional diseases have been added to this procedure. As you can see from this chronology, a timeline of the different diseases, today we have 6 different diseases, plus dog-mediated rabies, which only applies for the procedure for endorsement of control programs. So in terms of CBPP, the first list of CBPP countries and zones was published in 2003. And then the endorsement of control programs for CBPP, that procedure came about later in 2015. And from these diseases that you see on the screen, you can see that there's an asterisk next to FMD, CBPP, and PPR, and dog-mediated rabies. So these are the 4 diseases where the endorsement of official control program exists, and for the others, it does not apply. So now to give you a brief description about the objectives of this whole procedure of having granted official recognition for a free status and versus endorsement of your control program. So for the recognition of official status, my slides are jumping. The main objective for this recognition is, of course, as we are WOAH, to protect the animal and human health and international trade, but also to facilitate trade by giving recognition to those countries who have demonstrated that they are complying with the international standards to be determined as a free country, and also having respected the recommendations for safe trade following the provisions of the terrestrial code. So this provides guarantee to the trade partners in long term that a country who has the official recognition, has given the documented evidence on the disease situation in the country, and have proven to be able to demonstrate that its compliance with the international standards. And also, of course, for any member country to receive such recognition, it is a prerequisite that the veterinary services meets the baseline requirements for disease control and trade activities. And this also, in terms of is a tool to progress in those diseases that have a global strategy adopted by members with other partner organizations, such as for the diseases for FMD, PPR, and now we are having the first meeting for CBPP as well. So different from the objectives of the official status, the control program, of course, both the aim is to control, eradicate, and demonstrate to the international community of the capacity of the veterinary services in controlling a disease. But for a control program, it is to show that there is a very good program in progress, implemented, and shown to be effective in the country with some documented evidence to eventually arrive at the stage to have at least a zone in the country or the whole country free from a disease. So, and also with this endorsement, official endorsement given by WOAH, it helps veterinary services to be provided more support from their government, and also from other countries or donors to provide support to this country to make progress and advance in the control of a disease. So now to explain to you the standard operating procedures, how this procedure is run by WOAH. So this procedure is voluntary. It's up to the member if they wish to apply to submit an application to WOAH. And the procedure itself, as well as the list of members and zones being officially recognized by WOAH, is adopted by the membership through a resolution. As I am presenting to you, there is a very detailed SOP and guideline provided to members on how this procedure is run by WOAH. And the procedure, if there are areas for improvement, it can also be updated. And all this information is available in the 3 official languages of WOAH on this website. So for submission of an application, this is just summarizing the key points of what an application will consist of. So an application is to, as I mentioned already, is to demonstrate compliance with the relevant requirements of the terrestrial code. There is a dedicated questionnaire also within the terrestrial code, chapter 1.10, where there is a list of questions divided into different sections for the member to provide information on answering questions, so that this evaluation can take place in a comprehensive and informative manner. Any application is limited to be submitted within 50 pages and other supportive documentation to be given in appendices, cross-referenced to the core part of the dossier. There is a payment associated with this procedure, and for officials for CBPP, for application for a free status, it's 7,000 euros, and half price for least developed countries based on the UN list. And for programs, it is 2,000, and then again 50% of that amount for least developed countries. And of course, to not delay any clarification of information or exchange throughout the evaluation process, it's important for the contact details of the technical staff to be provided so that any questions arising from the evaluation done by WOAH can be answered without delay. So well, I won't go into much in this as it was already presented by Karim. There are horizontal chapters, and there is a specific chapter for CBPP, and this is just the outline of the structure and some important chapters under the horizontal chapters, volume 1, to be considered when a country is interested to apply for this procedure. And again, the outline of the CBPP chapter itself, as also presented by Karim. So maybe just to have a dedicated slide on the requirements for a CBPP-free country or zone. There needs to be proof that there is regular prompt animal disease reporting as respecting the obligation of to WOAH as a member. And 24 months, 2 years, is the important period to remember when you are ready to submit an application to demonstrate that you comply with the requirements to be officially recognized as free from CBPP by WOAH. And of course, the import requirements also need to be in line and with the provisions of the CBPP chapter and other chapters of the code, and supportive information to be provided for the past 24 months. So I did briefly mention that there is a dedicated questionnaire for members to complete when submitting an application. And this questionnaire is to assist members to help you compile the information that is needed for assessment by experts, which also assists the experts to make a comprehensive evaluation. It gives transparency on the evaluation process, and it gives some standards in the evaluation process as well, because the same type of information is requested and received and evaluated for this procedure for recognition. So just to quickly show the layout of the CBPP free status questionnaire, you can see the different sections which cover every area that would be relevant to demonstrate freedom from CBPP. And also for the layout of the questionnaire for a control program, which is a bit different from free status, of course, but covers all the areas to ensure that there is a program to progress and eventually achieve freedom in at least an area in the country. So to explain to you the different steps of evaluation, as I said, this is a voluntary process. There are these different steps until at the bottom of this slide, you see the last step of official recognition by the WOAH membership, the World Assembly of Delegates. And this process, the procedure, is run in a calendar, well, in a 1-year cycle. starting from one general session to the following one, so which means May to May. So we are just at the beginning of the next evaluation cycle, and this year the deadline to submit an application for CBPP and the ad hoc group of experts that will meet for evaluation of applications is the last one out of the list of 7. So you have that on the screen. So this procedure starts by a preliminary screening after an application is submitted to the WOAH by the WOAH headquarters. This is more administrative and technical screening to ensure that the applicant country has followed the structure and the guidance, the SOP, and the questionnaire that is available to submit an application in the correct manner. And the next step after this pre-screening is done is for the experts of CBPP to be convened as an ad hoc group to evaluate the applications. There are criteria described in the SOP of how the selection of ad hoc group experts is done. And this is the evaluation where the experts are assessing the information in the application against the requirements of the code, and also against other information submitted to WOAH through different channels, such as WAHs and some information available through the PVS, evaluation on performance of veterinary services. Of course, these are renowned experts of the disease, so they bring their own knowledge and they can consult any information available on the public domain. So as I also mentioned in my previous slide, there is possible interaction with the applicant member, and that is why the contact details of the technical staff is very important to be provided as part of the application. And then once this very detailed evaluation is done by the ad hoc group, this report and the recommendations are forwarded to the elected commission, the Scientific Commission for Animal Diseases. So this commission is one of the 4 elected specialist commissions of WOAH, and they are assessing the dossier, including the recommendations made by the ad hoc group. And there can be possible interactions, not only with the applicant member, but also the chair of the ad hoc group that had led the evaluation prior to this report coming to the Scientific Commission. And it is the Scientific Commission that has the final, the mandate to give the final recommendation to the World Assembly of Delegates on an outcome of an application. So in my next slide, I will explain to you the different type of outcomes. Of course, there's the positive and the negative, and somewhere in between, omission. So if the recommendation is a positive outcome, this assessment, the detailed assessment report of the application, is published on the WOAH website. And all delegates are informed 60 days prior to the general session that such and such country is being proposed to be officially recognized for free from one of the diseases that are part of this procedure. If it is a negative outcome, of course, the applicant member will be informed of this outcome, and with a detailed report explaining the gaps and recommendations to improve on those areas. But the report and the name of the country receiving a negative outcome is not disclosed to the public. So if it is a negative outcome, it will be only the applicant member that will be aware of their outcome. And there can be a recommendation where the scientific commission suggests to deploy a field mission in the country to verify what is presented in the dossier, that it is effectively implemented in the country. So this can be one of the outcomes of the paper-based evaluation, but a mission is not compulsory for every application that is submitted to WOAH. And finally, the recognition is done at the general session by adoption of the resolution by the World Assembly of Delegates. And this is just there was one country, Bolivia, that received. In fact, this is a mistake. It should have been Colombia that newly received the official recognition as a CBPP free country at the last general session just a couple of weeks ago. So on the WOAH website, you see this map showing the members and zones currently having official recognition by WOAH, and the list of members free from CBPP and having an endorsed control program by WOAH. And you can see that there are a total of 25 members currently having a CBPP free status. The ones in circles are showing the countries of Africa. Namibia is the only country having a CBPP free zone. And you see there are two countries, Namibia and Zambia, who just presented today as well, having their CBPP control program endorsed by WOAH. And that was the end of my presentation. Thank you, and open to respond to any questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Min, for that presentation. From the House, do you have any